Hey there, this is the Pilots News Briefing Podcast. I'm Frank Daniels, and with me today is Elena Marsh from the Pilots Newsroom, bringing us the latest news in Moore County, and it's certainly county news.
Yeah, absolutely. It is big county news. So after about a year, almost 2 years now of reporting on the updates to the Moore County Land Use Plan, there is now a document that was kind of finalized and is getting to be recommended on Tuesday that has the finalized goals and actions of what could become the 2025 Moore County Land Use Plan. And it is some big updates.
and the steering committee has been meeting since, remind me, September?
Got it. Yeah, it's been about 9 months.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a 9-month process.
And this past Tuesday was the final meeting?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was a 33-person committee from, as we've talked about, all different areas of county expertise. There was developers, economic development folks, there were public utilities, there were parks and rec, natural resources, like anything you can think of that is Moore County. I mean, they were there. So.
And you told me that you kind of honed in on two of their main points for the draft.
Yes. So there are, in our current land use plan from 2013, there are about 8 goals. All of those goals have been updated in some way, but 2 of the biggest updates were creating the roadway for basically, as it was described to me at this meeting, stopping urban sprawl almost entirely in Moore County. And if this plan created by process leaders Robert Hayter, and Larry Best.
Oh, okay.
I was mixing names, sorry. Yes, Robert Hayter and Larry Best. If this plan from them and from the steering committee would be approved, we could altogether almost stop urban sprawl in the county. So how are they going to do that? Excuse me.
What are the 8 areas? I know we're going to talk about 2 of them, but
yeah, the 8 goals. So I don't have the land use plan in front of me right this minute, but I did kind of talk a little bit about it, and the PDF actually of the recommended document is in my story online. So if people want to kind of see that document, they can download that PDF and see what the story is about.
Okay.
But those goals are things like preserve agricultural land, preserve our natural resources. A goal of another one would be, what's the other one I'm thinking of? Public input, valuing public input. Like these are just goals for development that don't necessarily have to be, we want this to be built here, but how to go about developing the county in a sustainable way.
Okay.
So that's what this plan is about. It is a policy document, but it is not in the same way that the Unified Development Ordinance has all the codes and zoning stuff and regulations. The land use plan is this big document of what do we want to achieve, and our UDO is based off of that. Our Unified Development Ordinance is based off of our land use plan. So there are a ton of goals, but the one of the goals of preserving agricultural land now comes with 2 new, extremely, I would think, as it was described, revolutionary ideas, one of which is the small town model, which basically is intended, and I'll quote directly from the document, to identify locations and create overlay districts for small towns. The small town model is a development pattern intended to cause the development of desirable places to live that optimize land use for the county's growth. So basically, the small town model is designed to find current places in the county that could be town centers and build outward from there. So
could be.
So there are some places that already were kind of described as or could be slated to become that town center. One of those is the Seven Lakes Business District, as it is receiving sewer with the 211 project. Yeah. By building close to that urban center, as you flush it out and go further, you're creating a denser area within, as opposed to what a lot of people have been kind of noticing of building subdivisions or businesses kind of out in rural agricultural county land.
Just in the kind of quote unquote in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Not that that's a real quote.
Not that that's a real quote, of course. But I mean, when I went to a lot of the public hearing and public listening sessions that the county was having back in 2024, in the winter of 23, you know, that's what they were hearing was there's no clear place that a lot of these developments are creating. So really the small town model as it is proposed is designed to create places. And the reason for this is because, as it was stated at the meeting, Moore County has a long history of doing this. All of our Pinehurst, I'll give Pinehurst as an example. For the longest time, Pinehurst was not a municipality. It was an unincorporated village. So it was still under the county. It didn't really have a system of government as it does now. It was just a dense area that was around a common theme or idea. So the common theme of Pinehurst was golf. So people came to Pinehurst to build their homes for golf. And as Pinehurst kind of got further and further out and as it developed, right, way back then, it would go further out and into agricultural land. That isn't quite what it looks like now. But the idea of these kind of small town model for the land use plan going forward, should it be approved, would be to find little niche spots in the county. For instance, the town center of West End, Seven Lakes, Lobelia, kind of near Vass, all of those areas that already have a good blueprint for density. Seven Lakes, of course, we think of that business district and that kind of stoplight area where that development could kind of center. As we get further out, excuse me, I'm sorry about the microphone. Right? I'm doing a lot of movement and talking. I'm so sorry. Yeah, you kind of have the town in the center, or town. It wouldn't necessarily be a town. It would be an unincorporated, densely populated area. You'd have the town. You'd have the rural edge with slightly larger kind of acreage developments, so 2-acre plots with some homes on them, but certainly larger spaces, and that would be your rural edge. And then we would have the rural landscape where you would have your farms, where no development, ideally according to this document and the way that the policy is written, no development would take place other than for farming related tasks and rural agricultural uses. So it is not new. I will say, I said it was kind of a new, innovative look at how to develop towns. However, I would also say it's not. It's a lot of it is actually kind of rooted in a Greco-Roman style of development and building. It's very old, but you'd have the town in the middle, and then your farms would kind of radiate out from that. And so that's kind of what they're looking at for this. A way to do that, some more policy, would be through this is my second point of today, the Agricultural Transition Overlay District, which would exist basically to be kind of a buffer. And it would kind of avoid subdivisions within that district. That district would be for, like I said, that kind of rural edge where there are larger developments in terms of how big the land is. So at minimum 2 acres, just as an example, not an approved thing, but as the example, it would be like, a 2-acre parcel of land or 10-acre farm, those smaller sort of trends that we see now, especially in homestead farming, of like a home, perhaps some kind of barn or distribution center for whatever produce or product that farm does, and then much larger. Again, I'm kind of talking primarily about farming, only because that was something that was talked about a lot as being wanting to be protected. There are also plans in this small town model and in these new overlay districts, or this new overlay district of the ATO, to have businesses business parks, locations for those. I have some fun maps on my story, and I won't go into
good colors,
all of them, but there are lots of colors, and it kind of explains examples of what's being talked about. But yeah.
What's an ATO?
Oh, I'm sorry. The ATO,
Agricultural Transition Overlay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the acronym that they've started using. Yes.
Okay, and so in that transition area, that buffer zone, not only is there room for, and when you say like a single parcel, could that include multifamily housing, like big apartment buildings?
It would be,
or would that be, or is that kind of envisioned in those?
Yeah,
closer to that
closer.
center?
I would say closer to the center in those kind of higher density areas. Whereas the agriculture transition overlay would be for, excuse me, not for major subdivisions, but for potentially a subdivision where you'd have 5 acres. And so in a maybe larger parcel of land, you would have a development of 2 nice homes as opposed to in a 10-acre area as opposed to 80.
10. Oh,
yeah. Right, like where you get like these kind of larger subdivisions with 80 homes in like a 16-acre area or whatever it is. I'm just kind of spitting,
right,
but
right,
yeah.
Okay.
So it's a lot. I could probably talk about it for a really long time.
Well, yeah, I imagine so. They spent a long time talking about it as well.
Yeah.
And you covered a lot in your story. You link to a lot of the other coverage that you have as well.
Yeah.
And as you said, you have that PDF, the PDF of the draft,
correct,
linked that people can look and get an idea of a real comprehensive idea of exactly what they have in there because it's there. It's in that draft.
Oh yeah.
And but your story lays it out as well. So if you want to ask Elena questions after you have looked at her story and maybe even the draft land use plan, you can send her an email to elena@thepilot.com. That's ELENA at thepilot.com. You can send me an email to frank@thepilot.com, FRANK@thepilot.com if you have feedback and want to make this more useful. That's how you do it, is you give feedback and we can adjust to make it more useful.
For sure.
And I don't know, maybe we can, I don't know, I think you did a good job of explaining that today.
Yeah, thank you.
So I don't know if we'll dive into it again, but of course the story is online at thepilot.com. And thank you.
Thank you, Frank.